Which Batman villain was a nightmare to work with on set? And who punched John Leguizamo on the first day of rehearsal? Keep watching to learn which actors have been rude, offensive, or downright abusive to their co-stars. Glee was intended to be a wholesome show, with Lea Michele feeling right at home in the role of the naive girl next door. Who would have expected then that the actor behind the lovable Rachel Berry would eventually become infamous for tormenting her co-stars? Numerous Glee veterans have called out Michele for highly problematic on-set behavior in the years since the show went off the air. It all began when Season 6 Glee star Samantha Marie Ware replied to Michelle's tweet showing support for Black Lives Matter with a since-deleted comment, saying, "Remember when you made my first television gig a living hell? I believe you told everyone that if you had the opportunity, you would in my wig," amongst other traumatic microaggressions that made me question a career in Hollywood. Michele apologized publicly on Instagram, but the potentially career-ending revelations didn't end there. Glee co-star Heather Morris tweeted that Michele was disrespectful and, quote, unpleasant to work with. Dabier Snell, who briefly appeared in the Glee episode New Directions, was a little less polite, saying, "Girl, you wouldn't let me sit at the table with the other cast members because I didn't belong there. You, Lea." Unfortunately, Michelle's mistreatment of co-stars wasn't confined to the Glee set, or television in general. Gerard Canonico, who starred alongside Michele in Spring Awakening on Broadway, called her out for constantly playing the victim when addressing bullying claims. Commenting under Michelle's apology post, Canonico wrote, "You are nothing but a nightmare to me and fellow understudy cast members." It's not a secret that Daniel Day-Lewis is an extreme method actor, but his co-stars often suffer as a consequence. Day-Lewis clashed with Liam Neeson on the set of Gangs of New York, with the Irish star repeatedly branding his method acting madness. Speaking with reporters after the Taken premiere, Neeson admitted that he was irritated by Day-Lewis' insistence that everyone refer to him by his character's name, even when they met up at the gym during out-of-work hours. Neeson said of his technique, "Actors such as Daniel Day-Lewis are often held up as this is the way to act, but I don't go to bed dreaming and sleeping the character." Likewise, although Day-Lewis Phantom Thread co-star Vicky Krieps enjoyed making the film, she said the three-time Best Actor winner basically lived as his cold, cruel protagonist throughout production, and treated his on-screen lover accordingly. As was noted in The Guardian, preparing his role as Reynolds Woodcock, a London couturier, Day-Lewis, with his habitual method actor zeal, learned to think like Balenciaga, sewed 100 buttonholes, and kept Krieps at bay. Krieps explained that she didn't actually meet Day-Lewis until their first scene together, stating, "I think this is what he, Day-Lewis, intended. I thought, if that is the rule of the game, I'll play it. I spent a whole day staring into greenery to avoid him."
I'm not playing a game?
Yes, mm-hmm.
What game am I playing? What game? What precisely is the nature of my game? You tell me.
Think there's madness to his method? Be prepared. Day-Lewis will drink his detractor's milkshake. Bill Murray may be a hero to many, but beneath his lovable deadpan persona lies a dark side. There's been a long-standing rumor that Murray treated Lucy Liu appallingly on the set of Charlie's Angels. In a 2009 interview with The Times, the actor pretty much confirmed that he was a jerk on set, but appeared to place the blame squarely on Liu, a common tactic used by abusive men. Murray said, "Look, I will dismiss you completely if you are unprofessional and working with me." Giving her side of the story to the Los Angeles Times, Liu confirmed that Murray did not treat her kindly. She elaborated, "As we're doing the scene, Bill starts to sort of hurl insults, and I won't get into the specifics, but it kept going on and on. Some of the language was inexcusable and unacceptable, and I was not going to just sit there and take it. So yes, I stood up for myself and I don't regret it." On the Drew Barrymore show, the host confirmed that while Murray was unkind to all his Charlie's Angels co-stars, he zeroed in on Liu. The other Angels weren't happy with this though. Barrymore remembered, "We all supported her and backed her up." Despite his marriage to feminist actor Annette Bening, actor and director Warren Beatty has a lengthy history of alleged harassment towards female co-stars. This harassment reportedly occurred on the sets of two of his most famous films, Dick Tracy and Reds. Blade Runner star Sean Young, whose acting career began to falter in the late 1980s, credits Beatty with effectively blacklisting her from Hollywood after she spurned his advances during production on Dick Tracy. Young told the Daily Beast that she was fired fired from the production for refusing to sleep with Beatty, saying, "It's not just Warren, it's across the board. Ever since the movie business began, women have been treated as a commodity. There was always someone grabbing you, and I just ignored it." Additionally, British actor Miriam Margolyes, who is openly gay, has claimed that Beatty made crude remarks about her sexuality during her audition for Reds. During an interview with ITV, Margolyes recalled her creepy encounter with the film's star and director in his trailer, saying, "I opened the door, he looked me up, down, up, and said, 'Do you f***?' To which Margolyes responded, 'Yes, but not you.'" There's a reason why Chevy Chase has become such a controversial figure in recent years. The Saturday Night Live veteran has a long history of treating co-stars appallingly. When Terry Sweeney became the first openly gay cast member on SNL, he found himself the subject of homophobic abuse whenever Chase happened to be hosting the show. According to the book, Live from New York, Chase suggested that Sweeney should be weighed on a weekly basis to ascertain whether he had AIDS, leading to the comedian being reprimanded. Sweeney remembered, "He was really furious that he had to apologize to me." Chase was reportedly banned from returning to the show after hitting cast member Sherry O'Terry on the back of the head, although SNL showrunner Lorne Michaels has denied these claims. While playing the role of Pierce Hawthorne in Community years later, Chase allegedly racially abused Donald Glover, telling him on one occasion, "People think you're funnier because you're black."
Is that a new stereotype?
The show's creator, Dan Harmon, corroborated these claims, explaining to The New Yorker, "Chevy was the first to realize how immensely gifted Donald was, and the way he expressed his jealousy was to try to throw Donald off. I remember apologizing to Donald after a particularly rough night of Chevy's non-PC verbiage." Responding to these claims, Chase remained evasive, simply saying that he was, quote, "saddened to hear that Donald perceived me in that light." Leonard Roberts claims that his on-screen wife, Allie Larter, subjected him to racism behind the scenes of Heroes, setting off a chain of events that ended with his character being killed off in Season 2. Roberts wrote in Variety, "D.L. Hawkins was in an interracial marriage with Nicki Sanders, a white woman played by Allie Larter. The script suggested D.L. and Nicki had a volatile relationship, and it wasn't long before Art was imitating life, with me on the receiving end of pushback from my co-star. Despite Larter being the instigator, Roberts attempted to assuage the rift by gifting her a bottle of wine and a heartfelt note, but she refused to acknowledge the gesture of goodwill. On another occasion, Larter refused to shoot an intimate scene with Roberts, despite being happy to film a sex scene with white actor Adrian Pasdar on a later occasion. In a damning revelation, he claimed that Larter attempted to stop him from ever divulging what had happened. Variety notes that Roberts' claims were verified by 10 people who worked on the show. Larter responded to the accusations in a statement to TV Line, saying, "I am truly sorry for any role I may have played in his painful experience during that time, and I wish him and his family the very best." There has long been an aura of mystique surrounding Marlon Brando, who is widely regarded as one of the greatest icons of Hollywood's golden age. However, despite his numerous progressive stances, most notably his support of Native Americans and the civil rights movement, many of the actor's actions were inharmonious with his compassionate views. The controversial film Last Tango in Paris contains an infamous rape scene, one that Brando and director Bernardo Bertolucci refused to tell actress Maria Schneider about beforehand. In a resurfaced interview, Bertolucci admitted, "I wanted her to react humiliated. I think she hated me and also Marlon because we didn't tell her." Schneider found the experience to be humiliating indeed, saying, "So I did the scene and I cried. I cried real tears during that scene. I was feeling humiliation." In a separate incident, Brando yelled at Dennis Hopper on the set of Apocalypse Now over a minor misunderstanding and proceeded to have an overblown tantrum. Hopper remembered, he gets up and says, "I don't have to listen to this. I don't have to take this." And he is screaming and yelling, "Why do I have to hear it from him? I have to hear it from this punk." In Batman Forever, Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones played the iconic villains Riddler and Two-Face, who team up to take on the Caped Crusader. Behind the scenes, however, it appeared that Jones may have lived up to his character's two-faced nature a little too much. Director Joel Schumacher has claimed that Jones acted like a bully towards Carrey on the set of the heavily panned 90s flick. In a 2019 interview with Vulture, the late filmmaker said, He wasn't kind to Jim. He did not act towards Jim the way an Oscar winner with a star on Hollywood Boulevard, being the oldest member of the cast and having such a distinguished career and the accolades to go with it, should have acted towards Jim. During an appearance on Norm Macdonald Live, Carey addressed the hostile working environment, confessing, "Tommy Lee Jones said to me that he couldn't sanction my performance. I was the star. That was the problem." Despite Carey's best efforts, Jones would not be swayed. The comic continued, "I went over and I said, 'Hey Tommy, how you doing?' And the blood just drained from his face like he had been thinking about me for 24 hours a day. He said, 'I cannot sanction your buffoonery.' Holy mackerel, it seems like Jones and Carey just have incompatible philosophies when it comes to acting."
The difference? Showmanship.
Despite his beloved, sensitive performance in films like The Graduate and Rain Man, tales of Dustin Hoffman's horrifying mistreatment of co-stars started to arise in 2017, casting significant doubt on the actor's previously clean-cut public image. Catherine Rossiter, who acted alongside Hoffman on the Broadway revival of Death of a Salesman, alleged that Hoffman was a total creep, both in and out of character. In a piece for The Hollywood Reporter, Rossiter wrote that Hoffman suggested that they go over their lines in a hotel room and pressured her into giving him a back rub. She wrote, "That was the beginning of what was to become a horrific, demoralizing, and abusive experience at the hands, literally, of one of my acting idols." The abuse took its toll on Rossiter, who continued, "Night after night, I went home and cried. I withdrew and got depressed and did not have any good interpersonal relationships with the cast. How could the same man who fought to get me the job, who complimented my work, who essentially launched my career, how could he also be this sexual power abuser?" Additionally, Slate unearthed a Time article from 1979 in which Meryl Streep recalled her first encounter with Hoffman, which was also during theater work. Streep recalled, "He came up to me and said, 'I'm Dustin Burp Hoffman,' and he put his hand on my breast. What an obnoxious pig," I thought. He may have been a Hollywood legend, but Kirk Douglas had an infamous mean side. Plenty of actors from Hollywood's golden age have shared horror stories of their time on set with the Spartacus star. If you were acting alongside Douglas, you had to watch out. During the filming of The Heroes of Telemark, Douglas appeared to take an immediate dislike to Richard Harris, which actor David Weston attributed to the aging Douglas being jealous of Harris' youth. Weston told The Telegraph that the first words he heard Douglas say to Harris on set were, "Are you going to be as big a b**** as they say you are?" Douglas later grew even more bitter when he noticed that Harris was driving a swanky car and threatened to delay production until he too was given a luxury vehicle. Similarly, Douglas mistreated Doris Day on the set of 1950's Young Man with a Horn, the filming of which Day described as, quote, "an utterly joyless experience." He was also cruel to Farrah Fawcett during the filming of the heavily panned sci-fi flick Saturn III. According to The Times, Douglas referred to Fawcett as Mrs. Majors, which upset her, considering she was in the midst of a divorce from actor Lee Majors. Of course, none of this is as monstrous as the accusation leveled by Lana Wood, who alleges that Douglas sexually assaulted her sister Natalie during production on The Searchers in 1955. In his heyday, Rex Harrison was an acclaimed actor, immortalized through his iconic depiction of grammar snob Henry Higgins in My Fair Lady, both on Broadway and on the silver screen. Unfortunately, despite the lovable nature of his most iconic performance, Harrison apparently treated numerous co-stars like absolute trash. During the Broadway run of My Fair Lady, Harrison reportedly developed an intense hatred for Julie Andrews, who played Cockney flower girl Eliza Doolittle, remarking, "If that is still here on Monday, I'm quitting the show." Andrews addressed Harrison's difficult behavior in her memoir, Home, writing, "I don't remember who said this, but someone made a cogent remark. No matter how big a Rex was, the truth is he cut the mustard, and for that, one forgave him everything." When My Fair Lady was adapted into the classic 1964 film, Harrison was cast alongside Audrey Hepburn, to whom he took an immediate dislike to as well. He branded Hepburn Bloody Audrey and argued that she was the wrong choice for the part. In his memoirs, Roger Moore said of the grumpy actor, Rex Harrison could be a rather mean-spirited man, and he wasn't regarded very warmly by those who knew him. On the set of Executive Decision, Steven Seagal acted like a total jerk. According to John Leguizamo, Seagal had hefty delusions of grandeur and attempted to dominate his fellow actors. Leguizamo and the other experienced actors on set were hoping to maintain a professional atmosphere, but Seagal had other ideas.
He comes in, I'm in command. What I say is law. You disagree? And I started cracking. I was like,
Unfortunately, Seagal didn't take Leguizamo's insubordination lightly.
And he Aikido'd me against the brick wall. Pow! Knocked all the air out of me. I was like, what? What? Yeah.
In a different interview, actor Stephen Tobolowsky said that working with Seagal on The Glimmer Man was a traumatic experience. Tobolowsky told AV Club, "Director John Gray came in and told me in a panic that Steven Seagal wanted to rewrite the script. He decided it was bad for his karma to constantly be killing people in movies, so he didn't want to kill me anymore." Seagal eventually relented, only to end up ad-libbing a line that implied Tobolowsky's character hadn't died at all. Actor and stand-up comic David Cross is known for being quite vocal about his left-wing views, so it was a major shock when stories of Cross hurling horrendous abuse at Charlene Yee surfaced in 2017. Cross and Yee both lent their voices to the light-hearted kids film Next Gen, but the casting seemed to dredge up some negative memories behind the scenes. In a series of now-deleted tweets, Yee claimed that Cross made racist remarks when the two were introduced to each other by their mutual friend, Michael Cera, around 2007. Yee wrote, "It is very uncool that a 40-plus man was being racist toward me." According to Yee, Cross made various offensive jibes and even questioned whether they could speak English. Responding to the accusations, Cross claimed that he couldn't remember any of these racist statements, but didn't deny them either, elaborating, "I would never intentionally hurt someone like that. I do not remember doing this when I met them. I am not accusing Charlene Yee of lying, and I'm truly sorry." In a lengthy response, Cross later backtracked on his inability to recollect the encounter. He admitted that he racially abused Yee and offended his Arrested Development co-star, Cera. While Cross apologized for upsetting Yee and Cera, he dubiously claimed that he was in character as a, quote, redneck racist. Just as British actor Noel Clarke was flying high due to the popularity of his TV show Viewpoint, the show was pulled right before its final episode, in the wake of some alarming revelations. As reported by The Guardian, 20 women have accused Clarke of sexual harassment, unwanted touching or groping, sexually inappropriate behavior and comments on set, professional misconduct, taking and sharing sexually explicit pictures and videos without consent, and bullying. Jing Lucy starred alongside Clarke in the film SAS Red Notice and alleged that he propositioned her for sex, telling his co-star that he, quote, couldn't help it. When Lucy rejected Clarke's advances, she said he exhibited a terrifying dark side and threatened her. Lucy recalled Clarke telling her, "All right, fine, don't tell anyone about this, yeah? Because if you do, it will get back to me. I will find out." In addition to the many female co-stars who accused Clarke of sexual misconduct, Adam Deacon, who starred alongside the disgraced actor in Adulthood, called out his former co-star on Twitter, going as far as to call him sociopathic. Deacon claimed that Clarke, quote, continually sabotaged his career, writing, "I only wish that everyone had taken more notice of my words. His horrific abuse of power could have been stopped before it affected so many others. If you or anyone you know has been a victim of sexual assault, help is available. Visit the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network website or contact RAIN's National Helpline at 1-800-656-HOPE 4673.